Never could I have anticipated that I would encounter such a predicament. In a quaint little town, I spent my formative years nurturing aspirations of a life filled with simplicity and joy. In the spirited days of our youth, I vowed my affection to my college darling, Ethan, a connection forged in the light of our shared aspirations and desires. Despite our few possessions, the bond we cultivated proved to be priceless, and that sufficed beyond measure. That was the inference I had reached. In retrospect, the indications of what lay ahead have unfolded before my eyes. In that moment, it transcended my understanding. Upon entering the delightful little abode we had chosen to rent, I was greeted by Mr. Grayson, our landlord. The dwelling may not have radiated grandeur, yet it embodied the essence of our bond. It radiated a lovely warmth, showcasing a picturesque garden and an enchanting little backyard that genuinely won my affection. As we embarked on this new chapter of our lives, Ethan and I found ourselves swept away by a thrilling surge of excitement. Mr. Grayson was a gentleman of notable years, traversing the initial passages of his 6th decade. His face radiated warmth, a smile ever present upon his features throughout our encounters. He was the type of landlord who would occasionally drop by to ensure that all was well with the house. The memory lingers sharply of that initial meeting when he arrived to mend the shattered fence. He exhibited a remarkable degree of politeness, inquiring if we required anything, all the while seamlessly incorporating playful conversations about the transformations the neighborhood had undergone throughout the years. At that moment, it barely registered in my mind. He was, without a doubt, a gentle and kind elderly gentleman. Gradually, the flow began to shift. As Ethan's professional commitments pulled him away from home with greater frequency, I discovered myself more and more enveloped in the serene solitude of our dwelling. In these moments, I started to perceive Mr. Grayson from a new perspective. He started to show up unexpectedly with increasing frequency, at times to evaluate the condition of the house, and at other moments simply to engage in dialogue. Initially, I perceived it as innocuous. Ultimately, he held the esteemed title of our landlord. With each passing day, I started to perceive a subtle change in the rhythm of our dialogues. On a serene afternoon, as I tended to the blossoms in my backyard garden, Mr. Grayson made an unexpected appearance. His visits had grown increasingly regular, and while I appreciated his presence, an unsettling aura accompanied his arrivals that I struggled to ignore. His kindness filled the room, a warm embrace that stood in stark contrast to the intensity of his gaze, which sparked a flicker of unease deep within me. On that specific afternoon, he lingered longer than was his custom. Our conversation unfolded seamlessly, meandering through the caprices of the weather, taking moments to appreciate the garden, and ultimately diving into the deep intricacies of life. In those fleeting moments, I started to notice a distinct allure in his demeanor. Do you find a certain joy that reveals itself in this place? On that day, he inquired, his gaze locked onto mine, stirring a profound sense of vulnerability within me. My response was cloaked in doubt. In Ethan's presence, a wave of happiness enveloped me, yet an undeniable chasm began to form, particularly with the long hours he dedicated to his work. There were moments when solitude enveloped me, even in his presence, yet I found myself reluctant to express that truth to Mr. Grayson, not in a direct manner. I offered a smile and a nod, attempting to dismiss the thought, yet Mr. Grayson remained unyielding, intent on keeping it at the forefront. He observed that, at times, it is all too simple to overlook the significance of having a confidant, to fail to appreciate the deep sense of connection that arises from the knowledge that someone is truly listening. Words flowed from my fingertips, yet the manner in which he uttered them sent an icy tremor coursing through me. His words hung in the atmosphere, echoing long after he had departed. I dismissed it, convincing myself that it was merely a momentary encounter. With each visit from Mr. Grayson, I began to observe the delicate nuances in his demeanor. His compliments, once light-hearted and carefree, started to bear a significance I was unaccustomed to. He would remark on my appearance, noting the effort I invested in presenting myself and the meticulous attention I dedicated to keeping the house in order. Initially, I perceived his deeds as mere gestures of goodwill, yet it quickly dawned on me that he held an understanding of subtleties that escaped the attention of those around us. On a particular evening, Ethan was conspicuously absent, engaged in a business trip. On a tranquil evening, I found myself cozily nestled on the couch, immersed in the pages of a book, when suddenly, the doorbell chimed unexpectedly. Surprised by the unexpected presence, I paused momentarily before responding. As I nudged the door open, Mr. Grayson appeared, his warm smile illuminating the space. "I happen to be nearby," he remarked, "so I thought I would drop in and make sure everything is in order." I offered a courteous smile, retreating slightly to allow him to pass. His unanticipated appearances had morphed into a routine, causing me to barely acknowledge them with a fleeting glance. He entered the living room, and our conversation commenced, just as it invariably did. On this particular occasion, an unusual tension hung in the atmosphere. His gaze held an unsettling intensity that sent a shiver racing through my veins. It was nothing blatant, merely a passing glance and a lingering stare, yet it was sufficient to send my heart into a frenzied race. During our conversation, Mr. Grayson approached me more closely than he typically would. The distance that had once separated us began to diminish, and the intensity of his presence grew increasingly tangible. I recall chuckling uneasily at his comments, attempting to dismiss the mounting unease that settled within my chest. I reassured myself that his behavior was merely a manifestation of friendship, convincing myself that my reactions were exaggerated. As though attuned to my unease, Mr. Grayson inclined closer, his hand softly placed upon the arm of the couch. "You know," he remarked, "it's a rare occurrence to encounter someone like you, someone who genuinely listens, someone who truly cares." At first glance, the words appeared harmless, yet an unsettling quality lingered in his tone, a distinct inflection that sent a chill down my spine. An overwhelming urge to retreat enveloped me, a compulsion to express my discomfort, but I opted for silence instead. Instead, I let out a nervous laugh and drew my legs up to my chest, attempting to form a barrier between us, even if it was merely a physical one. Mr. Grayson observed the change in my stance, and for a fleeting moment, an unspoken tension hung in the air between us. He gazed at me, his eyes gentle, yet an undeniable sharpness lingered that I could not overlook. "I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable," he murmured, his voice barely rising above a whisper. "Your gratitude is truly valued, Clara. You represent a unique and remarkable essence." The way he uttered my name left me momentarily at a loss for words. My heart raced wildly within my chest. I yearned to speak, to shatter the weighty silence enveloping us, yet the ideal phrases eluded my grasp. In that instant, I found myself entranced, frozen in place by the weight of time itself. Before I could utter a word, Mr. Grayson rose to his feet, a smile once again gracing his features as he remarked, "I suppose I should let you return to your evening." Yet within that smile lingered a peculiar quality, an intangible spirit that evaded my understanding. "I sought to reach out and inquire about your well-being." My throat felt parched as I observed him departing the house, the gentle click of the door echoing in the stillness. A breath I hadn't realized I was holding escaped my lips, and I remained motionless, my gaze fixed on the door. Time seemed to stretch infinitely as I grappled with the bewildering events that had just unfolded. Never before had I faced such a profound and disquieting turmoil within my own soul. A fragment of my being yearned to unveil my inner struggles to Ethan, yet another part remained ensnared by shame, immobilized by the fear of his potential judgment. My intentions were never to create any issues. Rather, I aimed to avoid planting any doubts in his mind or, even more dangerously, provoking his anger. As I pondered further, it became undeniably clear that I could no longer dismiss the emotions Mr. Grayson was stirring within me. A sense of unease wrapped around me, and I felt no desire to embrace it. An unsettling intuition lingered, suggesting that his visits concealed deeper truths he chose to obscure. What was I meant to do? With each passing day, Mr. Grayson's visits grew increasingly regular. With every return, I found myself once more engulfed by that familiar wave of discomfort and unease. I attempted to dismiss it, yet it grew increasingly difficult to overlook. His enigmatic charm stirred something deep within me, leaving me perplexed by its origin. I understood the significance of caution, aware that I could not allow circumstances to unfold without restraint. Yet, I sensed that, beneath the surface, a transformation was quietly unfolding. Unbeknownst to me were the profound depths that awaited my journey. As the days morphed into weeks, the tension between Mr. Grayson and myself became increasingly tangible. I had yet to share with Ethan the peculiar encounters I experienced with our landlord. A fragment of my being trembled at the thought that he might misinterpret my intentions or, even more dreadfully, that he could respond with anger and disappointment. In the end, my intention was merely to extend a gesture of goodwill, wasn't it? It was merely a fleeting exchange of words. Is that everything, then? With each unexpected arrival of Mr. Grayson at the house, I whispered that mantra to myself, attempting to dispel the creeping unease that was steadily settling in. Yet, the unease had evolved into a palpable energy that I found impossible to overlook. The recollection of Mr. Grayson lingered brightly in my mind, particularly the instant our gazes intertwined and the ephemeral brush of his fingers upon the armrest of the couch during that singular, remarkable visit. It appeared he was reaching out, attempting to forge a bond that transcended the usual boundaries of neighborly or landlord-tenant relations. The moment lingered in my thoughts, each recollection intensifying the unease that churned within me. On a serene Tuesday evening, I found myself solitary in the kitchen, meticulously slicing vegetables in eager anticipation of dinner. Cooking had always been a source of joy for me, yet tonight it weighed heavily, transforming into a burden rather than a refuge. My thoughts wandered to distant realms, an unsettling sensation pulling at my awareness, as if the air itself thrummed with the promise of change looming ahead. As I began to dust the chicken with spices, the familiar chime of the doorbell echoed through the air. My heart twirled in the confines of my chest. As I gazed through the kitchen window, I noticed Mr. Grayson at the door, his familiar warm smile brightening his face. Days had drifted away since I last laid eyes on him, and while relief should have wrapped around me, an uneasy knot twisted tightly in my stomach instead. Having dried my hands on a towel, I inhaled deeply and approached the door. "Good evening, Clara," Mr. Grayson greeted me with a cheerful tone as I stepped through the door. "I trust I'm not intruding upon any ongoing matters." "Absolutely not," I responded, mustering a smile. I moved aside to grant him entry, and he walked in with a casualness that suggested it was the most ordinary thing imaginable. He cast a quick look around, his gaze momentarily resting on the kitchen, where I was absorbed in the art of dinner preparation. The delightful aroma enveloped the room, he remarked, his eyes lingering on the dish I was meticulously preparing. With a polite nod, I accepted the compliment, a tide of uncertainty surging within me as I contemplated how to reply. "It's merely an ordinary dinner, lacking any noteworthy elements." "You always say that," Mr. Grayson chuckled, "but you possess an extraordinary gift for turning the most mundane into something truly remarkable." The compliment was pleasant, I suppose, yet it carried a different weight when it came from him. It distinguished itself from the praise I had received from friends, or even from Ethan. His gaze bore a profound intensity, as though he perceived something within me that transcended the mere concerns of sustenance or shelter. A wave of unease washed over me once more, yet I steeled myself to cast the sensation aside. "Thank you," I replied, dismissing it with a nonchalant flick of my wrist. "Is there anything you require? I take it you've come in search of some information?" Mr. Grayson's expression altered just a fraction, a fleeting hesitation flickering across his features before he replied. I would be grateful for the chance to engage in a brief conversation. A substantial amount of time has elapsed since we last engaged in a meaningful dialogue. To my complete astonishment, our gatherings had consistently been marked by polite exchanges, yet we had never taken the time to explore a deeper dialogue. I had observed his frequent presence in the vicinity, yet I had not anticipated his desire for a more profound conversation. A surge of unease enveloped me, yet I acquiesced all the same. Indeed, let us take a moment to share the space in unison. I guided him into the living room, gently indicating the couch, inviting him to take a seat and relax. As I nestled into my well-worn chair, I found myself gazing at him, a ritual that had evolved into a treasured aspect of our evenings steeped in the glow of our television escapades. A heavy stillness enveloped the room until Mr. Grayson broke it, his voice carrying a weight I had never seen in him before. He began his journey at a leisurely pace, and recently, I have found myself deeply engaged in thoughtful reflection on the nature of existence and the inevitable transformations that unfold as time moves forward. One can effortlessly become ensnared in the monotonous rhythms of daily life, gradually losing touch with the authentic core of what is truly significant. A feeling of discomfort washed over me as I pondered the direction he was opting to take. After careful consideration, I recognized your perspective. Amidst the tumult of existence, staying attuned to what truly matters can be an arduous endeavor. Mr. Grayson inclined his head, his gaze probing deeply into my own. Precisely. It is equally vital to take a moment to pause and reflect, ensuring that we are genuinely experiencing life rather than merely following the steps of a daily routine. His words carried an unsettling weight, leaving me at a loss for how to reply. As I pondered his suggestion, a veil of uncertainty enveloped my thoughts, and a part of me hesitated at the idea of unveiling the truth. "Clara," he murmured gently, inclining his body ever so slightly toward her. It is a struggle to articulate, but from the very moment our paths intertwined, a profound bond emerged between us, a unique connection that lingers vividly in my memory. Repeatedly, I find myself reflecting on our dialogues and the manner in which you present yourself. Your remarkable essence is beyond words, and my admiration for you runs deep. A sudden tightness gripped my throat, choking off my breath. His words wrapped around the listener like a gentle hug, resonating with the deep importance of a newly discovered truth. The manner in which he articulated those words resonated deep within me, yet it was far from a soothing sensation. A sudden wave of restriction surrounded me, instilling uncertainty about my impending choices. My thoughts surged, searching for the ideal words, anything that might ease the heavy tension now thick in the air. I find myself at a loss for words," I murmured, my voice barely rising above a whisper. "I am grateful for your kind words, Mr. Whitaker, but I must inform you that I am happily married. My heart is wholly dedicated to a husband whom I esteem above all else." He appeared utterly unfazed by what I had said. He reclined in his chair, observing me intently for a brief moment, his face a mask of inscrutable mystery. "I understand," he murmured, a hint of regret tinging his voice. "My wish is to shield you from any discomfort, Clara, yet I cannot ignore the emotions that reside within me." His words flowed through me, igniting a spark of electricity that awakened every nerve. While I had previously listened to his words of admiration, this particular moment held a distinct significance. In his gaze lay a profound depth, an intensity that spoke of unvoiced stories, as a wave of dread and uncertainty washed over me. This had transcended the realm of a mere, casual question posed by a congenial landlord. It had morphed into a maze of complexities, a domain I understood I was ill-equipped to navigate. "I have no intention of creating any discord between you and your husband," Mr. Whitaker stated, his voice steady and resolute. "Yet I can no longer feign indifference to the undeniable allure you hold over me. It was a necessity for me to express my feelings to you." Words eluded my grasp, and as I parted my lips, they danced away from me, just out of reach. I found myself in a delicate predicament, torn between the instinct to protect him and the imperative to avoid offering him empty promises that could lead to false hope. Which course was I meant to take in this predicament? How can I effectively convey to him that I am married and have no desire to engage in anything beyond my relationship with Ethan? At last, I inhaled deeply, feeling the rhythmic thump of my heart echoing within my chest. Mr. Whitaker, I stated with unwavering determination, I appreciate your honesty, yet I feel compelled to be straightforward and unambiguous with you. I remain steadfast in the cherished union of marriage, entirely committed to my husband. Your kindness is truly appreciated. Nevertheless, I must stress that my focus is solely limited to the confines of a landlord-tenant relationship. A lingering silence filled the space, and I noticed a glimmer of disappointment dancing in his eyes. He cast his gaze down to his hands, then nodded with a deliberate contemplation. I understand, he whispered softly. I truly apologize if my actions have caused you any discomfort. That was never my aim. I nodded, feeling a wave of relief envelop me. The tension that had enveloped us began to fade, yet it left a haunting discomfort in its wake. The sensation lingered as an unavoidable weight, a certainty that nothing would return to its former state. Mr. Whitaker's emotions toward me would persist, regardless of how fervently I might desire to confront them. He rose to his feet, and I mirrored his action. "Thank you for listening," he murmured, his voice gentle, laced with a touch of melancholy. "I bid you farewell for now, hoping your evening is filled with delight. I want you to understand that I hold your boundaries in the highest regard, Clara. I simply wish to convey my feelings to you." I summoned a smile, attempting to conceal the turmoil that swirled just out of sight. "I conveyed my appreciation, Mr. Whitaker. I await with great enthusiasm the time when our journeys converge again." Upon crossing the threshold, I halted for a moment, gazing into the void he had left behind. A tempest of thoughts swirled within me. The occurrences that had just transpired were entirely beyond my comprehension. Even while tethered in the bonds of matrimony to Ethan, I found myself ensnared in a conversation with our landlord. What was happening, and why did it seem as though my entire essence was gradually fraying at the seams? I shook my head, striving to dispel the lingering doubts that clung to me. I felt an undeniable pull towards the very core of my existence with Ethan, longing to relive the love and devotion we once held dear. Yet, a persistent whisper deep inside me suggested that this was merely the beginning of something much more profound. Following my discussion with Mr. Whitaker, I endeavored to firmly set aside the entire matter from my thoughts. My determination to uphold my bond with Ethan remained steadfast, and I had no desire to complicate matters further with our landlord. Yet, despite my efforts to conceal my emotions, they lingered, tenaciously holding onto my heart. The weight of guilt and uncertainty clung to me, trapping me in a relentless loop of doubt regarding the meeting. Several days later, Mr. Whitaker made a surprising return. An unexpected surge of anxiety enveloped me as the doorbell's ring shattered the silence. Despite my awareness of my unpreparedness for yet another difficult dialogue, I acknowledged the imperative to confront it directly. I gently pushed the door open, striving to maintain my calm demeanor. "Greetings, Clara." He welcomed me, his tone both inviting and steady. I wanted to reach out and confirm that everything is in order with the house. I inclined my head just a touch, conjuring a smile. "All is in place, Mr. Whitaker." "I appreciate your inquiry." He appeared to pause for a fleeting instant before pressing on. "I have been reflecting deeply on my previous expressions. It was never my aim to bring you any discomfort. I acknowledge your boundaries and hold them in high regard." Compelled to express the myriad thoughts swirling within me, I felt an undeniable urge to articulate them. I gazed at him for an extended moment, absorbing the gravity of his utterances. In that moment, I sensed an urgent need to assert my position. In this place, uncertainty discovered no sanctuary. I expressed my gratitude for your understanding. Nonetheless, I find it necessary to express my thoughts with clarity. I find myself entwined in the sacred bond of matrimony. My dedication to my marriage with Ethan is unwavering, and I refuse to let any distractions interfere with this sacred connection. Although I appreciate the professional bond we have developed, it exists strictly within that context. Mr. Whitaker's expression softened, yet a trace of melancholy lingered in his gaze. He inclined his head gently, taking in my words with a serene stillness. "I understand," he murmured softly. "I truly apologize if I crossed any lines." A profound inhalation filled my lungs, and a calming tide of relief washed over me. "It is perfectly fine. I wish to confirm that we share a mutual understanding." He offered a gentle, polite nod before departing. As he turned to leave, I lingered in the doorway, observing his departure, a storm of emotions swirling within me. A flicker of sorrow nestled within my heart, acknowledging the significance of this moment, while at the same time, a surge of thankfulness blossomed for the limits I had so desperately required to establish. As twilight enveloped the world, Ethan and I gathered at the dinner table, and in that moment, I experienced a profound sense of presence that had eluded me for far too long. The recent events lingered in my mind, yet I understood the necessity of pressing onward. I unearthed a captivating allure to the essence of what truly matters. The very core of my family, my unwavering commitment to Ethan, and the profound love that wove our lives together. "Is all well?" Ethan inquired, observing that I seemed more withdrawn than normal. I offered a smile, attempting to banish the persistent thoughts that clung to my mind. Lost in profound contemplation, the thought of your return home brings me immense happiness. He returned the smile, his grip on my hand tightening gently. A comforting warmth envelopes one when stepping back into the beloved embrace of home. In that instant, it dawned on me that within the chaos and intricacies of human feelings, my concentration was remarkably acute. An unwavering sense of obligation compelled me to safeguard the bond one shared with Ethan. With steadfast determination, I was committed to ensuring that neither barriers nor people would obstruct our path, fully aware that, despite the challenges ahead, we would confront them side by side.